Now, British spy agencies are accused of breaching citizens' rights by illegally collecting personal data of Britons for years. The UK's Investigatory Powers Tribunal, in a report, says the intelligence agencies such as GCHQ, MI5 and even MI6 have breached the European Convention on Human Rights with their unlawful activities. The tribunal says there were almost no safeguards as snooping on individuals' phone and web continued until 2015. The investigation into British surveillance had focused on bulk communications, data collections and bulk personal data sets creation. The frequent revelations of espionage have provoked growing public uproar in Britain. The Investigatory Powers Bill proposed by the British Parliament last year added some safeguards for citizens' rights. However, it expanded the abilities of spy agencies to allow for hacking of hardware devices on a mass scale. Joining us now via Skype from Bristol is Tony Gosling. He's an investigative journalist. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Gosling. Now, while these revelations or this confirmation, so to speak, by the UK's Investigatory Powers Tribunal do not come as a surprise, there are many who say if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be concerned.
Well, look, this case boils down to one simple fact. Can you trust the secret services here in Britain? And the answer is no, you can't, because they have decided that they can get away with these acts which are breaking the law, that is to say these mass trawls, mass surveillance, and nobody will be able to produce the evidence to take them to court because of this one simple reason, is because they are protected by the Official Secrets Act, they're protected by military police and barbed wire and secrecy, not just from ordinary members of the public, but also from any scrutiny by journalists. They're very, they will show journalists exactly what they want the journalists to see, and there's no proper oversight whatever from Parliament. They've got the Intelligence and Security Committee that is supposed to oversee GCHQ, but the trouble is they have to know exactly the right places to go and questions to ask, and of course by doing that they pre-warn GCHQ what they're going to do. So they've realised that they can get away with all sorts of things which may be criminal activities or whatever, illegal in one way or another, and nobody will ever be any the wiser. Now, I think this is a game which they've been playing for a while now, and slowly but surely people are realising that they can't trust them anymore.
Right, but Mr. Gosling, is this a game, so to speak, if as these intelligence agencies put it, it's the only way to keep Britain safe?
Well, of course it isn't. You know, proper oversight by journalists, proper oversight by MPs and by lawyers is necessary, and they're preventing that. The reason why we in Britain are so concerned about what they're doing is because if you go back to the 1930s, this is exactly what the Nazis were doing in Nazi Germany after Hitler's coming to power in the early 1930s, 1933. Everyone was kind of scratching their head. Why are these Nazis so interested in gathering bulk data on everybody, going down the street asking everybody what their religion is, what their name is, or their occupation? Every little piece of basic data about their families was being collected by the Nazis. At the time, people thought, oh, well, they're just trying to do it as a kind of census or just a basic kind of keeping information on people. But we now realise that what they were doing was they were sorting out and categorising the types of people that they wanted to get rid of in future years. I mean, people like trade unionists, for example, people like Jews were being then targeted by the Nazis for this purpose, which is why after World War II we set up some fairly stringent guidelines on saying the secret services do not have the ability to collect this bulk data because they could then abuse it. They can use it, for example, to target political dissidents, to target their political opponents, whether they're members of parliament or even people that might be rising stars in opposition parties. That, I'm afraid, is what seems to be going on here, is the complete failure of the British parliamentarians and the legal system to hold these GCHQ people to account. They're working very, very closely with the National Security Agency, and if it looks like GCHQ are being asked to do something which may be illegal here in Britain, they just say, oh, well, the NSA can do that, and vice versa. So they're being basically dancing around, getting around the law, and it's about time that there was some proper scrutiny of GCHQ. I and other journalists should be allowed into there, trustworthy people, in order to report to the public what's really going on. Otherwise, we're going to end up with another situation like pogroms here in Britain because of the amount of bulk data that GCHQ and the NSA in the United States are collecting.
And before I let you go, Mr. Gosling, when it comes to government snooping and bulk collection of data of citizens and individuals, how much of public pressure is there to undo that or have more oversight? Because, for example, in the US, that conversation seems to be fizzling out.
Well, it's fizzling out because it's not been getting very far. But I think it's absolutely crucial because the nature of what's been going on here is we know in Britain the law is that if you want to put somebody under surveillance, you've got to go to talk to a judge, and that judge has got to say, yes, you've got a good reason to do that. But they've decided to ignore the judges. I think it's about time for the judges to go straight in to GCHQ in Cheltenham and to have a good look around, and the solicitors, etc., for the people to see exactly what's going on in there, because we don't want a rerun of the 1930s, thank you very much, here in Britain. And wouldn't it be horrific if that was to happen, turning history on its head? You know, Britain, the country that first took on the Nazis in 1939, should then be subjected to a similar kind of situation itself, with a Secret Service running out of control.
All right, let's leave it there for now. That's investigative journalist Tony Gosling joining us via Skype from Bristol. Mr. Gosling, it's always a pleasure having you with us here on Press TV.
Thank you.